We just arrived in Brooklyn at ADO Workspace, and we're meeting with Get Room. You have to check out their Instagram account. It's really, really, really nice. I love everything. And it's a super hot topic because Get Room does phone booths. And I know a lot of people are talking about phone booths these days. Everyone's looking for quiet zones, for possibilities to speak, to phone, to have a moment with yourself. And there's many different types of phone booths, but not many phone booths can solve all the problems. Like air condition is a huge issue with most of them. Some have a bad sound system. There's many things that, it has to be the perfect thing. So let's see how they're doing here.
The concept is born here in New York City. It's designed here, and we manufacture in Portugal.
Okay.
So we manufacture in Europe because the company that we partner with, or the contractor that we partner with for manufacturing, are essentially acoustic specialists.
Okay.
So we partner with them because they had insights into how to create acoustic panels and sound absorption, building.
Which is a big. I'm not really familiar with the topic yet, but it's one of the biggest issues, right? The whole air circulation and the acoustic.
Yeah, so the tricky thing about building a product such as a phone booth that only takes up about 10 square feet is to make sure that the air can circulate throughout the booth, but that the sound stays inside. So you have to build it in a way that it essentially leaves the sound inside, but lets airflow through freely, right? These are both in use right now, so you can kind of see the soundproofness yourself. Can't really pick out anything that any of them are saying.
Do they all come on wheels?
That depends a little bit on the use. For most clients, they don't come on wheels because they don't have the need to move them, but in a flexible office space such as ADO here, where they have a lot of exhibitions and where they need this flexible and dynamic workplace environment, we put them on wheels so they can move them around anywhere in the office. So basically our default model, which is made it's very minimalistic in its design, has like a great felt interior, etc. Much more simple and clean. And then every once in a while, we make limited edition partnerships under a project that we call Creativity at Work. And the general idea is that we believe that an inspiring office starts with inspiring people. And that's why we've created a number of limited edition booths with up and coming as well as famous designers, architects, etc., who give their bit on how to create a more creative workspace. But this is essentially the unit. It's soundproof, sealed with a magnetic seal all around the door frame. There's a table, and electricity, and light in there. There's also a fan on the top of the booth that essentially sucks out the air. So basically the way it works is that cold air flows in from the bottom of the booth and travels diagonally and removes all the heat that's generated between you and your computer when you're working here. And it is sucked out through this air vent in the top, from the top of the booth. And in the bottom and in the top of the phone booth, we've built what in acoustic terms is called a sound trap.
Okay.
A sound trap is essentially a way for the air to...
I can see on your smile you're quite proud on that.
That piece took a long time to figure out.
Okay.
But basically it's a way for the air to circulate throughout the booth, but keeping the sound on the inside. And one of the things we've actually seen, which has been pretty interesting, is that the rise of video conferencing has required more private spaces, because now we're not only talking about audio privacy, we're talking about visual privacy as well. So the fact that you're not sitting in a big open office space with a lot of people walking behind you and looking over your shoulder, which is very distracting to you as well as the people you're talking to on the other end of that conference call. This gives you both audio as well as visual privacy.
This one is compared to other solutions quite, I'm not saying cheap, but low in price. How come? Like, why is that? And why do you ship for free, and why? So
one of the key challenges when we started was that the existing offers that were out there in the market began at $6,000 and up. $6,000 being in the cheap range, and $10,000, $12,000, even $15,000 units. So the problem that we saw was that, yes, you can solve noise, but you cannot solve noise at scale. Meaning that you might be able to solve it for the people in the executive suite, but the second you need to solve this for hundreds of employees, then the solutions were too expensive. And before we started, there were only really two options out there. One, you could opt in and purchase one of these very expensive solutions, or you could try to build your own. So the problem with building it your own is you need to know about acoustics, you need to know about electricity and ventilation, you need to know about construction. And it ends up being extremely expensive before you're done. A self-built unit in an office space quickly runs in the $10,000 to $15,000 for a proper, well-functioning phone booth. The problem also being that the day you need to leave your office and move somewhere else, because your company scales out of its existing office, you can't take it with you. One of the things, I don't know if you know, is that the soundproof material, and one of the ways that we keep costs low, is that we found a way to engineer our foam material, so the soundproofing, out of recycled plastic bottles.
Okay.
So basically for every single unit we sell, we recycle about 1,088 plastic bottles for each unit. And if you need to dispose of the product, all of the interior soundproofing materials 100% recycled. What has been a big challenge from a design perspective is continuously designing for that kind of simplicity, using recycled materials, finding ways to solve the problem without adding cost. So essentially using creativity and ingenuity instead of just throwing money at the problem. One of the ways we've done this is by creating a magnet seal on a plexiglass door rather than actually building an aluminum and glass door.
Okay.
That keeps the cost low. It keeps the weight low as well, which makes it easy to move around. So easy that we could actually put wheels on it, as you can see, and you can move it anywhere around in the office. Yeah. So this version is on wheels, and as you can see, we can
That's fine. Good. It's not heavy.
We can very easily move it around and place it anywhere in the office. And once you've found the right location, you simply just lock the wheels. But one of the things I think is interesting about this industry and the reason why we got started is that most companies here in the US as well as globally have migrated from either cubicles or closed offices into an open plan seating. But not very many companies have thought about the supporting environments that needs to be in place to support the open plan office. And I think that lately there has been a lot of conversation around, oh, the open plan office is the worst invention ever. There are a lot of people that have seen the negative consequences of the open plan office. But I think it is important not to blame the open plan office as an idea. I think what has gone wrong is not necessarily the open plan office, it's the implementation of the open plan office.
Focus on one tool and then not see that there's other things you need to around with it, right? Like
yeah, exactly. So the open plan seating, where you're more collaborative and more in contact with your colleagues, has a lot of positive features to it. But if you do convert into an open plan seating, an open plan office, you do need to think about those supporting environments that are in place. There needs to be a place for taking phone calls and doing focused work. There needs to be breakout areas for creative and collaboration. There needs to be recreational areas. There needs to be social areas. The most important resource in any company is the people working there, which means in terms of employee retention, engagement, happiness. If you're not good at taking care of your employees, that has consequences to your business. So realizing that, you need to not only look at your office as from a functional perspective, but from an experience perspective. How can I create an environment that fosters obviously productivity and creativity, but also happy employees? And yes, I think I mentioned this before, we're not in the business of selling phone booths, we're in the business of selling good work environment.
Yeah, you most certainly did. I mean, that thing with the background, it's really,
Actually, there's something that we're testing out at the moment, which is pretty interesting, is we have a number of these units installed with sensors so that we can measure temperature, noise level, and usage to figure out, and for larger clients this become relevant because they can leverage that data and insights to figuring out what units are in use the most, place them on the floors where it makes the most sense, and understand patterns within their workspace so that they can continuously improve it.
Yeah, because of course it's new, we still need to.
And I think it's important to note that if we're designing for the future of work, the future of work will be a connected workspace. And we're very much invested in thinking about how to tap into that, obviously, and improve, leverage data and insights to improve workplace experience.
Yeah, sounds good.
But that's a larger project.